Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, happy Monday. We got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about Governor Ron DeSantis officially ending his presidential campaign, leaving former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley to go one-on-one with President Trump in the next set of primaries. It will be interesting. Also, let's talk about how one mayor is changing the system from inside. We're going to be checking in with Mayor Khalid Kamau of South Fulton, Georgia, to talk to us about the work he's doing down there, political polarization, and so much more. And later, we check in with Dr. Bridget, our medical expert here on the show for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness. We got a lot to talk about as it relates to Black mental health, so you don't want to miss this conversation. Folks, stay with us. We're streaming live on a number of different platforms, but I hope you're tuning in from the BlackStarNetwork.com. Make sure you stay with us. It's the culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Happy Monday, folks. Happy Monday. I guess we'll get a little horn blast on that joint. Folks, we are streaming on a number of different spaces and places. Make sure you check us out on our homepage of BlackStarNetwork.com, BlackStarNetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence, download the app for free on all of your devices. Make sure you follow us on social media under Black Star Network. And of course, we ask you to drop something in the bucket because unlike any other show that you've probably been on, we actually have the conversation with you. Just as much as I'm talking right now, like I'm talking to a friend, to a family member, I'm talking straight to you. And that is unlike any other place on the digital space that you'll find is like that we include you into the conversation. So we also want to include you in being an investor and a stakeholder. And that's why we encourage you in asking for your support. So make sure you do your due diligence, support us today. And thank you for being one of our great donors. Now, we're also streaming on a number of other great platforms. Big shout out to Amazon, one of our big partner platforms. We're streaming on Amazon News, on Fire TV. We're also on Amazon Prime Video, and you can check us out on the Prime Video app under Live TV, the news, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video and check us out there under News and Opinion. And we're also on the Freevee Network. Find us under On Now, right now, on News for Black Star Network. So big shout out to Freevee, as well as the big shout out to Plex TV. Finding us there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just search for Black Star Network or find us under Live TV, the News and Opinions. All right, folks, as we check in, let me do a little roll call because the crew is gathering into the chat. If you are checking in for the first time, or this is your 101st time, welcome to the Culture Crew, and the crew is our way of showing the great community that is supporting us here on the culture. We have the dialogues and the conversations. As I'm having it here, y'all can have it online, and I thank y'all, man. The crew. Y'all are one of a kind and so special, so I thank you for your continued support. Big shout out to the Culture Crew on the YouTube chat. There we go. We're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page, YouTube channel, so make sure you join us there. We're also streaming on Roland Martin's Facebook page, so big shout out to the crew there, as well as to the Culture Crew on the X platform. So I cannot thank y'all enough for that. But if you're on the YouTube chat, I see my Pastor Damon Bassett. Pastor, thank you so much for keeping me up to date on some of the big newsworthy stories. There you go, Pastor. We got Ming Lee Natasa Sir checking in. Good to connect with you once again, Ming Lee. I hope you had a great weekend. Cindy D, hello, Cindy. Good to connect with you. Deidre Hall, I see you. Brian Christian, good afternoon and happy Monday, everyone. Brian, good afternoon and happy Monday to you. Big brother Willie Frazier, happy Monday. Good to connect with you once again. Pauline Hurt, I see you. Thank you. Happy Monday, Smooth Approach. Good to connect with you once again. Tiz, LA is in the building. Yes, we are. LA is in full effect, and we are definitely in the building. Tiz, thank you for checking in. Ronald Rogers, thank you for checking in, brother. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate it. Who else we got in here? Benny Hill, I see you. My sister Corinna Denise, I see you. Who else we got here? Let me see. Oh, and we already got another fantastic donation from Mr. Ronald Rogers. So Ronald Rogers, thank you so much for your support. Every little bit it means a lot. So Brother Ronald decided to put his money where his mouth is, and I cannot thank you enough for doing that. And welcome to the family. Always a pleasure, Brother Ronald. But you've always been supporting us since you've been part of the culture crew. So I can't thank you enough, brother, for that. The ABX Gerald checking in. Good to connect with you. Stephanie Humphrey Channel, I see you. Hope you had a great weekend. Yeah, y'all had a great weekend. Y'all know why. The Ravens won. Come on. We ain't got to go into no details. I told you, son, Baltimore. We're going to the AFC Championship. It's being hosted in my hometown of the great city of Baltimore. It's been over 50 years since we had an AFC Championship. Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it is. We the home of Lamar Jackson and the... We don't do this. Oh, man, big weekend. Okay, all right, let's go. Let's talk about some of the serious stuff. Let's talk about the news. Actually, let's take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk a little bit about what's happening on the GOP side very quickly. Governor Ron DeSantis has officially ended his campaign, leaving former governor of the South Carolina, Nikki Haley, to go one-on-one with former President Donald Trump in the next set of primaries, and it doesn't look good. Her numbers aren't there, folks. Her numbers aren't there, but she's going to try to make an effort to see if she can get some traction in New Hampshire. She's going to try to make an effort there. Ron DeSantis, though, that was one of the big letdowns, big disappointments, but he couldn't make it happen, folks. He could not make it happen. He had a lot of problems, internal personnel staffing issues. He had technology problems because he tried to kick his campaign off on the X platform. That didn't work well. So he had a lot of problems. So are we really surprised? And of course, he's endorsing Trump. So are we really, really surprised? Folks, I got to take a quick pause when we come forward. I'd love to hear what your take is as we talk about this new development and how the GOP presidential poll candidates have just shrunk down to one woman. And guess what? As we are still in this space in this country, this is really for both sides, that we still have a problem with women in leadership, women in political leadership. But more importantly, the GOP is placing its bet on a former president that has been indicted, that has been impeached, that is facing legal issues out the wahoo. Folks, welcome to American politics. Welcome to democracy in 2024. Stay with me. We'll continue to talk about it on the other side. It's the culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat at the Black Table with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We talked a little bit, just briefly, what's going on with the GOP as they have dwindled their candidates down. There was a bunch of them on stage. Now it comes down to one, former governor of South Carolina, Nikki Haley. She's also the former U.S. ambassador. And y'all remember she worked for the Trump administration. So she's now running against her boss, her former boss, and looking to get some momentum after her low polling, the votes that she wasn't able to get from the Iowa caucuses. Now she's looking at New Hampshire. She's trying to look ahead, keep her head held high. But it looks like Trump will be the nominee. It looks like that. It looks like that. So let me get your take on this, everyone, and just share your thoughts as we talk about this. I mean, it's interesting. It's crazy at the same time because GOP, you would think that after all of this madness around the former president, after all of this stuff that's happening with this guy, the GOP would make some sort of concession changes. They would call an audible on the play or anything like that. But, Trump, this is the party of Trump. This is the party of Trump. And I'm not expecting Nikki Haley to pull out a massive win. I'm just be honest with you. Trump won in Iowa by little. He had over 50% of the votes there. And it looks like he is just going to steamroll his way into the nomination. And I think there are a lot of key questions that would have to be asked to the American people, and more importantly, to this GOP party of today, of this moment. A lot of questions have to be asked. But let me hear what you got to say. Anastasia, you said, I'm not understanding how, my sister Anastasia Pageant, you said, I'm not understanding how can 45 been on the ballot when the Constitution say that he can't be a president, especially with everything he has done. The Republican Party have turned it back on America. Come on. I don't understand it either. We've seen there were a couple of states that said no, he couldn't get on the ballot. That's being challenged in courts, trying to take it all the way up to even to the Supreme Court. We had a point, folks, where America just, y'all know where I am. 2024, see things as they are, not what you hope for or what you wish for them to be. See things as they are. At this point, you just got to see things as they are. That's what it comes down to, right? I mean, crew, like at least if we see things as they are, we can respond not out of a space of delusion. We can respond out of a space of reality. Okay. Sean Ryan checking in. Sean, welcome to the chat again. You say she isn't going to beat Trump. People in that party want Trump back real bad. Right, Sean. Real bad. It is absolutely crazy how bad people want this guy. And it's almost like we're in Black Mirror Twilight Zone episode where I'm like, wait a minute, are we listening to the same guy? Are we really, really listening to the same guy right now? This is the same guy that has done all of this stuff. We don't even have to go down a list of things that just are major violations, whether it's political violations, legal violations, moral violations, ethical violations. You don't even have to go. This is the same guy. And we're talking about this guy being the nominee for one of the two major political parties in this country, and this is the best that you have to offer. Dang. And you're forcing the American people to just eat this. Like you just got to eat it, America. Hey, he won. What you gonna blame? You gonna put the polls and the elections, he won. But who created the culture? Who lifted him up? Who is not speaking out against him? See, if he was ostracized, if he was demonized, if he was put into the proper context that the American people can see clearly, not from a place of delusion but to see him as he is, then we would probably this conversation would be a little bit different. But now that none of that is happening, and it looks like he's moving forward. It's interesting. You don't like my music? You checked in. Good to connect with you, man. You said Trump should have been impeached for blackmailing the Ukrainians the first time. Come on. Man, we can go down the list of violations, man. Pauline Hurt, thank you. You don't like my music. Good to connect with you, man. Pauline Hurt, you said, well, only thing I can say is we have to do everything in our power to make sure this criminal does not get near the White House. And that's crazy that the American people got to do all of that. That's crazy. When we go across the water, if any of you are planning to visit any other country, for vacation or whatnot this year, ask the people there in other places of the world, how do you see America? What do you see from your vantage point from over here? What do you see? Just ask the locals. We're the laughing stock, and yet we want to walk around with a big stick and talking about how we got this moral authority over people who have done other stuff to their people. Oh, and they're not supposed to be doing that to their own people. And we become the super cop of the world. But what leg do we really have to stand on for letting a man who has violated and broke the law on so many levels? Okay. Let me get a couple more of your thoughts in there as we have this conversation. Nikki Haley. The problem with Nikki is she don't even want to face reality. I'm still caught up. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm still caught up on the fact that she didn't even acknowledge slavery as being the cause of the Civil War. She didn't even acknowledge that. So we are really in, and we got to take another pause because I got a special guest for us. But we are really in a time where you have to do all that you can. Crew, you've got to do all that you can to hold on to some semblance of sanity and truth. That's it. You feed on sanity and truth, folks. Feed on it. Read about it. You know, don't put yourself in an echo chamber, right? Don't put yourself in a space where you just want to be affirmed of what you believe, but really open your mind up to things that really, as you know, deep down in your soul, this makes sense, or to things that are truly true. And that's the war that we're in. It's not a war between Ukraine. I mean, no. The real war is between truth versus lies. It's always been that. This has always been the underlying war that America has yet to truly face. It's always that truth versus lies. And now it's coming to a head. Truth versus lies. It's not even about saving democracy versus anarchy or anything like that. It's truth versus lies. Because before you even get into this space of talking about democracy and saving the soul of a democracy, you got to make sure that people even have an understanding of the truth and the lies. Because all of that stuff becomes a non-starter if you don't know what the truth is, if you don't see things as they are and not how you want them or how you wish them or how you hope for them to be. It's truth versus lie. And we are in that. And for Black America, the truth is the only thing that's going to save us. That's going to save us and that's going to set us free, right? Isn't that what the book say, Pastor Damon? The truth is the only thing. Corinna, my sister, you said I'm hopeful for Florida. Florida rising, organized, and beat a GOP candidate in a recent special election where DeSantis won that district previously. That's the kind of work that we need done. That's the type of work we need done. Let me get one more here, and I see Sammy Holmes checked in as well. Good versus evil. That's what you said, Sammy. Absolutely, that's a part of it. Tiana, my sister, checking in. Good to connect with you. You say I knew this country was in trouble when they started saying alternative facts. Come on, Tiana. What the hell is it? Well, Tiana and crew, when I first heard that term, and I have to admit to y'all, I was like, what the hell does that mean? Are they trying to just say lies, alternative facts, even in the language? And we got to be very careful. And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about this at another point. But even in the language, they don't want it to say lies, because lies mean that conjures up a whole different type of feeling versus alternative facts. It's a little softer and it makes you feel like, I'm not really lying. I'm just alternating the facts a little bit. That's lying, right? That's what it is. So we got to be even mindful of the language that's used and making sure that we don't find ourselves falling into a category of using language that doesn't get to the root of the problem. Whether you're telling somebody the truth or lie, when your child lies, you don't say, hey, Rashad, why are you telling alternative facts? Nobody says that. It's like, why the hell you lying to me? Nobody says alternative facts, but that's a part of the American lexicon to get to the place where we don't have this type of resistance to this idea. So we say stuff like outright lies. Now you have to add conditions to the lies, outright lies, blatant lies, and then there's alternative fact. Lord Jesus, Lord, help us all. So we're in a very, very critical and serious time in our politics and our language, but most importantly, we're in a very serious time about making sure that we hold on to truth and not hold on to lies. Look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's check in with Mayor Khaled, who is the mayor for South Fulton, Georgia, going to talk to us about the work that he's doing, talk about political polarization, Black folks getting out to vote, and so much more. Stay with us. We're just getting started here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, We're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, and I'm so happy that you're able to join us. Once again, happy Monday. We want to, as we continue the conversation, talking about the state of politics, and more importantly, kind of giving you the latest on the GOP side, as Governor Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the GOP and now leaving Nikki Haley to go one-on-one against the Trump in these next set of primaries. And it's opened the door for us to have some very, very critical and important conversations. So I'm very happy that my first guest today is going to give us some insight about what's been happening on the ground. He serves as the mayor for the city of South Fulton, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. And I'm very happy to have him, welcome him to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Mayor Khalid Kamal joining us. Brother Mayor, how are you today, sir?
Hey, good afternoon. So glad to be here with you.
You too, brother. First, for those who are not familiar, Mr. Mayor, where is South Fulton? We're part of what part of Georgia is that in?
I love to tell people about it. South Fulton is actually Atlanta's new twin city. We were incorporated 7 years ago out of the SWAT. So those of you all who are familiar with Atlanta or with hip hop know the SWAT. So if you're, it's the area just outside of 285 south and west of Atlanta. We are the same size as Atlanta, 90 square miles, and with a population that is 92% African American. Our city is the blackest city in America.
Jeez. I remember visiting a city in Pennsylvania, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if you're familiar, Chester, Pennsylvania.
Yes, they have. I think they have the oldest HBCU there, Cheney.
They had Cheney there, but I remember going there a few years ago, and at the time they were saying it was like 70 or 80% black or something. Beautiful. It's a beautiful city right outside of Philadelphia, but it's a smaller city. But that's when when you talked about kind of like the new twin city, that made me think of Chester. So this is a new incorporated city just 7 years ago. Were you a part of that effort? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so in 2015, I was part of the movement for Black Lives. I was out in the streets for, Mike Brown and the countless other Black men and women who had been killed by police. And around that time, the city of South Fulton was forming. I was transitioning into doing a little bit more political work. I was working for Stacey Abrams, who at that time was the state house Democratic leader. And I took a look at the map and I went back to my colleagues at Black Lives Matter and said, at the time, I didn't know we were going to be the blackest city, but being born and raised here, I knew this city was going to be very black. And that time we were creating a platform that didn't just talk about police reform. It talked about, reproductive justice, economic justice, housing affordability. And I said, if there were any place in America to roll out this platform and really be a laboratory for these policies, it would be here. And so I ran for city council. I was a inaugural city council member. I represented Old National, Old Nat, for those of you all who, again, are fans of hip hop. That is our famous South Side street, like Bankhead, Crenshaw, you name it. And I did that for 4 years, for about 4.5 years. And then I ran for mayor, and I am now mayor of the blackest city in America.
Brother, let me just tell you something. You might have just gave us the blueprint for freedom.
I hope so. That's what we're working on. That's what we're working on.
The blueprint for independence, because if we are in a space and for folks that I'm out here in Los Angeles, and there are a number of cities that are incorporated, but there are a number of cities that aren't incorporated, right? And just the idea that you have pushed to incorporate an area of Atlanta to encompass so many of our people. And then not only did you push for it, but you decided, hey, I'm going to be a part of the leadership and be a part of the overall vision. I mean, and this only happened 7 years ago. So that just goes to show you that there's still a lot of work that could be done in the cities and smaller towns across this country about getting us to some form of political power. Do you get a chance to really reflect on that? Like, man, we really did that, from 7 years.
And I talk to people about it all the time, whether it's just in barbershops or on stages. There's a lot of talk, and I hear folks talking now, right, about like the national election and, Trump and Biden, and regardless of what you think about those, a lot of brothers that I talk to, a lot of folks on the ground, they don't see any difference whether a Democrat or Republican occupies the White House. But I will tell you that, in my view, 90% of the decisions that government makes that matter most to everyday people are actually made at the local level, right? Whether what is considered affordable housing in your community, your city councils and your county commissions decide that. What your children are learning in schools, what standards, what books are being bought for them. That's a local decision. How fast someone will come when you call 911, and whether when they show up, they will help you or hurt you. Those decisions are made at the local level. Those police manuals, those standard operating procedures, all of those things are decided by your city council and your local governments.
Absolutely. We're going to take another quick pause, Mr. Mayor. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about some of those dynamics. I'm thinking about political polarization. You're in a state like Georgia. So there are a lot of Black folks that have moved to Georgia based upon the statistics, but then Georgia is still kind of up for grabs in some areas, right? So, there's still a lot of ground to cover, a lot of work to be done. So I want to kind of get your take on that. And as you mentioned, folks are saying Trump or Biden, and that's not really the messaging that's resonating in the streets. We have these conversations on this show, Mr. Mayor, and folks are saying, look, hey, a lot of folks are saying let's Biden's may not be our top choice, but he is the only choice outside of Trump. And I would love to get your take on that, especially as you come out of the social justice space. So, folks, stay with us. We continue our conversation with Mayor Khaled on the other side, right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history of color have made progress. Whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, peace and welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, talking to Mayor Khaled Kamal, who serves as the mayor of the great city, the newly incorporated city of South Fulton, Georgia. And Mr. Mayor has been breaking it down, giving us just a little snapshot of some of the work that Black folks on the ground was doing to establish South Fulton as another city, a city that is predominantly Black by huge margins, over 90% Black to be specific. And so we are in a time where we're looking at still a lot of work that's being done, a lot of ground to cover. And so, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate your time with us today. But talk to us a little bit about, I want to kind of go back on the remarks that you made about Biden and Trump, that we're having these conversations about whether who is who and what is what, and more importantly, who Black folks should be putting their support behind. And that's on this level. But on the ground level, where people are, with the young folks that you talk to, with the elders that you talk to, this is not even a real conversation. It's not even like one is different from the other. It's like one and the same. Is that what I'm hearing from you, Mr. Mann?
Well, you know, I'm not quite a millennial. I'm millennial adjacent, I like to say.
Right,
so,
right.
So I'm at this intersection. I'm at this, you know, as a member of Gen X, I'm at this intersection of the elders and the young people. And while the elders really do feel that Trump is just an existential threat to democracy, and that regardless of whatever they might feel about Biden, I think many of the elders in our community do like Biden, but younger folks are just, you know, they're just not swayed in the same way. I will say that in this, I just came from the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and they have been very instrumental. There's a saying that mayors are neither Democrat nor Republican, or that there are three parties: Democrats, Republicans, and mayors. And the U.S. Conference of Mayors is a bipartisan group. We've come together over the years, and most recently really advocated for the American Rescue Plan, for those ARPA funds that were first just being, if you remember the first bailout, I can't even remember what that acronym was, but that money sort of went to the states and the counties. We made sure with the American Rescue Plan that money came directly to the cities. And for example, here in the city of South Fulton, we celebrated King Day by giving away over $500,000 in grants to businesses. Of course, over 90% of them were Black owned.
Wow!
We gave grants of $10,000 to $20,000 each to these businesses who had been struggling through the pandemic and just needed a bridge or a hand up. After the slowdown that happened during the pandemic, and that happened because of the American Rescue Plan and the efforts of the U.S. Conference of Mayors and presidents like Joe Biden. But by contrast, we see that Joe Biden and the FDA are considering banning menthol cigarettes, which would criminalize menthol cigarettes. In some places, like the state of Massachusetts, has already talked about making it a felony to possess with the intent to distribute menthol cigarettes, which could really just ignite, a drug war 2.0. And we saw how that ended for Black and brown communities. So, people have concerns about things like that. A lot of young people are seeing, even though they're two separate tranches of money, a lot of young people are seeing this country give billions and billions of dollars to the war in Ukraine and to aid Israel, which is really operating an apartheid state in Gaza and Palestine, but not bailing out sufficiently young people who need help with student loans, who need help with housing affordability. And so those kinds of issues give young people, and even myself, pause and have us looking at candidates like Marianne Williamson or a Cornel West. We're hoping the brother, jumps all the way in and gets his name on the ballot in places like Georgia, because he would definitely have my vote.
And is there a concern for you, Mr. Mayor, when you see the political polarization, the way things are moving, especially in a state like Georgia, that some people even go and say it's not red, it's not blue, it's purple? But do you feel like that we as Black folks in this country, that we should be concerned right now, especially going into this being the 2024 presidential year?
Absolutely. I just talked about this at our swearing in. We had our swearing in January, ironically on January 6th. So, I took that opportunity to talk about not only the third anniversary of the January 6th attacks, but connecting it to what we see happening in Israel and Palestine. I know we don't have a lot of time to get into that, but basically you have two regimes, Hamas and Israel, that haven't had elections in years. Palestinians haven't been able to elect a leader in 20 years. And so you have old leaders who can't let go of the past and won't let go of power that are really driving these divisive politics, where a lot of everyday people in the middle really all want the same things and don't have the problems living together that we see a lot of these, older leaders or people that are inheriting these prejudices from previous generations.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And talk to us a little bit about the conversation about how South Fulton in particular is addressing the voter suppression issue that we have been reading about all over the country. Is that we're seeing that there is some very great concern, especially Georgia being a state that has both urban and rural areas where a lot of our people are. How is South Fulton going to address that? Making sure that those voters are getting to the polls, making sure those votes are counted, making sure that our people are not forgotten in the process.
South Fulton actually sits at that intersection. Of course, the parts of us that touch Atlanta are very urban, Old National, Cascade, Camp Creek, those places that people know. But we also have hundreds and hundreds of square miles of farmland. We have 2 Black wineries, over 24 farms. And so what I have been doing in my office is a lot of political education. I keep a page about each election. I do a voter election guide, and we do just a lot of virtual and in-person education to make sure that our voters know what's going on. Here in Fulton County, which is where we are in South Fulton County, nearly all of our House districts, both state and congressional, have been redrawn. So people that have been representing us for decades have been drawn into completely different areas of the state. And I've been pushing to make sure that each person is mailed a new voter registration card that has their voting precincts on it, because too often people don't find out about these changes until they show up to vote.
Right. Absolutely. I know we got 30 seconds left or so, but you have an effort to keep people informed about the work that you're doing in South Fulton, Georgia, and more importantly, to keep us all connected. Talk to us about this initiative.
Oh, well, I send out text alerts. I try to communicate all the different ways, in print, over email, over text, and of course, social media. People can find me at Khalid Cares USA. Our first dog, my dog Zion, also has a TikTok and an Instagram page. And people can text the word BLACK, BLACK, to 55444 to find out more about myself, the city of South Fulton, and everything that we're doing here.
There it is right there, folks. Text BLACK to 5544 to learn more about Mayor Khalid. And I said Khalid, but it's Mayor Khalid, so I apologize for that mispronunciation, dear brother. I hate when people doing it my name, so I want to apologize for doing it to yours. Problem. But we are very excited about the work that you're doing. And when does your term go? What's the cycle like, the election cycle for your term, Mr. Mayor?
I have we serve 4-year terms. I have 2 more years, so I will be here for at least 2 years, and then we'll see what happens. I've been doing a lot of work throughout the diaspora, traveling to places like Colombia, France, Ivory Coast, where there are Black populations that are very interested in the work that we're doing here. And I'm so interested in the work that you all are doing. So I want to tell you all, please keep up the incredible work that you're doing here on the Black Star Network. I will be watching.
There it is right there. Mr. Mayor Khalid Kamal, who is the mayor of South Fulton, South Fulton, Georgia, right there outside of Atlanta. But this is a newly incorporated area in Georgia, folks. They just got incorporated 7 years ago. And so Mr. Mayor is the first mayor of this newly incorporated area, of this newly incorporated city. And it is exciting stuff to see this happening, especially when y'all think about where we were 7 years ago. This is 2024, but we were in 2017. Where was the country? And now we're talking about incorporating areas where our people live. As Mr. Mayor said, over 90% of South Fulton, Georgia is Black. 90%.
The blackest city in America.
The blackest city in America. And let me do this. I know we got to wrap this up, but I do want to get your take. And, I will certainly bring you back on to get more conversation. there was an effort by Mr. Charles Blow, the writer from the New York Times. He did a whole documentary on, that the best way for Black folks to get political power is to go back to our roots, which is the South for a lot of us, right? To go back to our roots and to establish it, even though they're in a lot of these homes, that the places that we came from are from red states. He said that he can flip that we have the power to flip that. What's your take on that conversation, Mr. Man?
It's happening right now. Mr. Blow moved back next door. He's next door in Atlanta, and I see him from time to time. We are definitely building political power. This is the place to be.
That's it. Mr. Man, I thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to reconnecting with you and staying informed about the great work y'all doing down in South Fulton, Georgia. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh man. Can't wait to see how things continue to unfold down in South Fulton, Georgia. Big shout out to all of the family down there as well. The blackest city in America. Folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk a little bit about health and wellness. Let's talk about mental health. And of course, we have to show our love and appreciation for Brother Dexter King, who's one of the son of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who unfortunately passed away as a result of prostate cancer. We're going to be checking in with our very own Dr. Bridget for Reclaim Our Wellness and give us some insight about this and some other things that we need to keep in mind as we're talking about our health and wellness. Stay with us. Those conversations are up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. It is Monday, and as we do on Monday, we got to kick off the week checking on you. So we're going to do that with our very special segment, Reclaim Your Wellness, with our very own medical expert, Dr. Bridget. Happy Monday, Dr. Bridget, MD. How are you today?
Great to see you, Farajii. How are you?
I am well by the grace of the God. Thank you so much. So, Doc, we got a lot to talk about, so I want to jump right in. First and foremost, our prayers and condolences go to the King family, as Dr. Martin Luther King's son, Dexter King, passed away over the weekend, losing the battle against prostate cancer. This has been prostate cancer is one of those things that really does affect Black men, and has been on the forefront. But talk to us a little bit about this. Is there anything that you would advise people to do, especially Black men watching the show today, as we kind of reflect on the life and the legacy of Dexter King?
Absolutely. So, it's a sad day, and shocking to hear this. Dexter was 62 years old. I believe he was the third of the four children of Martin Luther King Jr. And it's upsetting because my first thought was no one should be dying of prostate cancer in this day and age. The fact of the matter is the survival rate is about 30% for Black and white men when it's advanced staged. However, Black men die more often because they are often not diagnosed until it's way too late. And so my first thought is to get in there early and get the PSA blood work. I know people don't want to do digital rectal exams. They run from it. But the fact of the matter is, this saves your life to do these examinations, to get in there at 40 years old or younger, particularly if you have a family history of it. And if you're having symptoms, make sure that you're not making excuses. If you have difficulty urinating, if you have a weak flow with urination, that you feel like you're going more often, if you can't sit through a movie is usually what I ask people. If you can't sit through a movie or God forbid, even a TV show, then you definitely need to get this checked out. A lot of times people think an inflamed prostate is all it is, but sometimes this is the beginning signs of cancer. And if you see blood with urination, don't hesitate. Make sure that you're getting this checked out because it doesn't have to be this bad.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have to be this bad. And I think that it's interesting that we're still struggling. We're still struggling with it, right? You know what I mean? It's not as if prostate cancer is anything new. It's not that we don't know that Black men are disproportionately affected by it. What would you say as a medical professional, doc, as a family physician, what is the real issue here as to why we are still seeing this happen to so many Black men?
It really brings me to some patients that I had where the family said that with the inability to control urination and all the issues that came along with the symptoms of an inflamed prostate, the patient said, this is just the way it is. It's a rite of passage of getting older. And so to him, he felt as if this is just like you get older, you might get a little arthritis, right? You get older, you might not sleep as well. For him, he believed that this is just what happens, and that's not, doesn't have to be the case.
Yeah.
And so I think realizing that there are medical interventions that can be helpful. There are whether it's surgery, whether it's medications, what have you. The fear of the unknown stops a lot of people. And I often recommend just find out what your options are.
Absolutely.
Right. So at least don't let the fear of the unknown kill you.
And, I think that we have to create a community, and we're going to talk about this in dealing with mental health. But when you're talking about your physical health, we got to create a safe space for us to even have those conversations for the women, for the children, for the adult children in the lives of these Black men, and say, hey, have you had your prostate exam? Have you gone to the doctor lately? Like having those type of conversations. How significant is that a Black man, that a brother knows that he's being supported in his health and wellness, Doc?
I mean, to know that whatever the case may be, that you have people behind you, that, we, as adults, we put so much energy into our children, right? And sometimes I find that Black men feel that they're putting energy into their spouse, they put energy into their children, they put energy into their job. Women feel this as well, that many times some of these issues just go unseen for them. And to be able to have family members say, hey, listen, if your son came to you and said, I'm making my appointment, Dad, let's make your appointment too. I think that sends a huge message.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And final question before we take our next pause, Doc, how much of this is diet related? And I know that because we're in an age where everybody has a specific dietary, restrictions and needs and everything. And I know a lot of times the focus has always been, in the past, the focus is like what you eat and what you put in your mouth. How much of that relates to prostate cancer? How much is that diet related?
So to have a diet that's high in fat, that's high in carcinogens, you have to think about this. So much of what we take in that is processed often has carcinogens in it as well. And so to be able to do a low-fat dairy diet, to do lean protein, to do plant-based, it's not that bad. To do plant-based can make a world of difference for you. And just avoiding just because they make it doesn't mean that we have to consume it. I say it to my daughters when it comes to fashion every day. Just because they make it don't mean you have to wear it. And just because you go to the grocery store and it's on the shelf, think about that. It's you against that grocery store. It's your health against this society that makes money off of your demise. They make money off of you gaining weight, eating poorly. The medical system makes money. The pharmaceutical company makes money. They give you high sugar, addictive type foods. They make money. Like, think about my vessel, my body is better than that. And if you just make one little small change at a time, it can make a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. My sister, Pretty Brown Mimi 726, as we wrap up this part of the conversation, but she did ask, when should Black men start getting tested for prostate cancer, Doc?
So typically we're saying 45. I highly recommend doing that first check, particularly if you have any family history at 40. Okay.
That means I got to set up something.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I got to set up something.
But I was going to be like.
That means I got to set up an appointment, man. Because I don't want to go out like that. I don't want to, I want to try to stay on this earth and see the little kiddos grow up as fast as far they can go. So absolutely.
That if anything, my message is stay ahead of it, because if you stay ahead of it, there's so much that can be done.
Yeah.
Stay ahead of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause when we come forward. We'll continue the conversation as we talk to Dr. Bridget about reclaiming your wellness. We got a very special guest she got lined up for you. You know the doc now. She's going to be bringing all these fantastic folks into the conversation. So on the other side, let's talk a little bit about mental health and getting some insight about that. So I cannot wait. I want you to be involved in this conversation as well. So make sure you stay with us. Make sure that you check in on the chat as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube channel for Roland Martin and Roland Martin's Facebook page. We would love to hear what you have to say as we have this conversation about Black mental health. Stick around, stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We are talking about reclaiming your wellness. This is our segment that we have every Monday, and we check in with our medical expert on the show, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, MD, who gives us our insights. But now Dr. Bridget has opened up the space, and I absolutely love it, that she's inviting other voices to be a part of the conversation as well. So, Dr. Bridget, you know, this is your show now, apparently, and I'm good with that. I'm good with that. I am. No, I'm seriously. I'm like, I love the fact that you got all of these dynamic voices. We talked to our brother Will Baptiste last week, and that was a fire conversation. A lot of views on YouTube around that discussion. So I can't thank you enough for that. But today you are bringing to us Dr. Kristen Matthews from Preventive Measures. Talk to us about the work of Dr. Matthews.
Absolutely. So I'm very excited to have her on, and there is a relationship with Dr. Matthews for both of us, because she reigns from your city, Farajii. She's originally from Baltimore. And
come on.
Yeah, so I know you're ready for that. I know you're ready.
Absolutely.
And then did her graduate studies at Ohio State, and so right where I am in Columbus. So that in itself, you know, we're excited to meet with her. But we really want to bring her on here today because, in line with where we were talking last week about Black men and mental health, and we were talking about toxic masculinity or what have you, she is the clinical director for Preventive Measures Foundation, where they're doing the hard work to make sure that we have more Black men and women as therapists. So I would love for her to come in here and have the conversation with us.
Dr. Kristen Matthews, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. How are you, sis? Oh, wait a minute, you got you on pause. We got you on mute. Oh, yeah, we got to, there we go.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Okay. Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, Doc. I'm good. So, you know, Dr. Bridget is giving you a lot of love and has said that you really know how to bring it and have these conversations. So I just want to thank you for joining us today. And as Dr. Bridget said, I wanted to kind of like just add on to something she said, which was the conversation that we had last week about Black mental health as it relates to Black men. Yeah. But we're in a very, very unique place because now we're finding that there's more and more conversation around mental health than I probably think within the last 20, 25 years. I don't remember any time where we have discussed this in a mainstream way, that we're using the language of therapy. And I want to kind of get your take on that. Where do you see us? Are we, even with all of these new discussions, Dr. Kristen, are we making any real strides in making sure that people understand the importance of their mental health, especially Black folks?
Yes, because I feel like by having more conversations, we're normalizing the need to ask for help, normalizing the need to identify within ourselves that we need help. And that's a part of the process. And any person that can say, hey, I need help, I need to find a therapist, I feel like we're moving in the right direction. So thank you so much for even having me on and continuing the conversation from even last week. I think that the more that we talk, the more that people get comfortable, the more people get comfortable, the more people ask for help. I actually wrote down that quote that Dr. Bridget said, don't let the fear of the unknown kill you, right? So the fear of the unknown of what is therapy? Is it killing our peace of mind? Is it killing our marriages? Is it killing our relationships? Is it killing the way that we parent? So yeah, I think we are moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
So,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Doc.
So tell us a little bit more about Preventive Measures Foundation and your involvement in it and what you're planning right now.
So right now, I am a clinical director in one of our outpatient mental health facilities here in Washington, D.C., but the foundation itself is tasked with of raising money. And one of the things that we're having next month, next February, we're having a gala where we're raising scholarship funds to give away scholarships so that we can support the development of more Black clinicians across the board. How can we give scholarships so we can have more students who are working with our community, having more people who look like us working in our community? So one of the things that the foundation is tasked with is not only soliciting scholarship funds, but partnering with local schools. So they are partnering with both Morehouse and Howard to start, as well as expanding it to other HBCUs to provide scholarships for Black clinicians.
I love that. I love that. Because I definitely think if that push, if young people knew, listen, this is an area that you can go into, this is a career, this is an opportunity to help people, but having that extra push of those scholarships, I think will take them across the finish line. Is that what you're looking for?
That is definitely the goal. So like the infamous question, like, okay, what can the scholarship do for you? At the individual level, again, we need more clinicians working with our families, working with our children, working with our couples. We need more Black professors, right? It's not just the individual work, but do we have more Black professors that are in our schools teaching that next generation of students who want to be clinicians? Do we have more people in our hospitals and institutions that are able to advocate where one's voice may not have always be heard? So we definitely just need more scholarships to put more people out, more clinicians out in the community overall. Yeah.
No, that moment of representation, I think you cannot underestimate, and particularly when you're talking about mental health, right? I remember the first time I walked into, really, it was even a conference, and there was a Black woman doctor talking, and I took and I was like, I was already in medical school. And I was like, how did I get here if I've never seen myself, right? The trust that you need, particularly in the mental health space, for someone that looks like you and that you can feel some level of comfort that they have walked your walk makes a difference.
I definitely agree. Trust and safety are a part of that foundational relationship when we talk about building rapport. So having someone who looks like you is important because, again, we don't exist in a monolith, right? So recognizing that they'll get mannerisms, they'll get nuances. You don't have to over-explain or explain yourself so someone can get it and connect with you is so vital. It keeps a person coming back, right? If I know that I don't have to talk too much, if you get my nonverbal cues, if you get the nuances when I'm describing certain things that may have been overwhelming for me, it makes me want to come back another week. It makes me want to, again, normalize and have the conversations with my family and my friends like, hey, yeah, Dr. Kristen, she's really good. You should, look her up or find a therapist that's like her.
So I have a question for you. Like 25% of Black Americans seek out mental health. And many times, there's a number of different reasons, but a lot I hear from people is, well, I have great girlfriends, or I can talk to my family, or, can you really share why talking to your girlfriends or, best friend or whoever it may be, or even, sharing a beer with the guys and having a conversation, why that is not the same?
So what we need is to have a person who has that level of training and clinical experience. And I think that sometimes for some, the lines could be blurred because there is a sense of therapeutic relief. When you talk to your mom or your aunt or your good girlfriend or your homeboy, you're at the barbershop, you're at the hairdresser, you're like, oh yeah, I got it. But to sit across from someone who has the skill set and the level of intervention to identify what you're not saying, the nuances, and being able to suggest interventions and strategies for maybe the things that you don't see, those blind sides, recognizing that, again, there's different types of therapy, right? It's not just traditional talk therapy. There's play therapy for children and adolescents. There is, your TFCBTs, your cognitive behaviorals, your EMDRs that are able to specifically work with particular types of situations and presenting problems that our moms aren't equipped to handle. Not that they don't love us, not that they're not going to give us their best advice, but as we know, therapists don't give advice. So,
yeah. Absolutely. And I may just throw this in there because I think one of our culture crew members mentioned this, and then we got to take another pause. But Cindy D said, that's not enough, Doc. She said, my husband said I was his therapist. I didn't want that responsibility. Sometimes you need impartiality. And I think that sometimes it's like there's a very thin line between if you're in a relationship with your partner say, well, you can talk to me about everything. And it's like, I don't want to put that, but there's this expectation kind of, this intersection of mental health and intimate relationships. There's this expectation, Dr. Bridget and Dr. Matthews, that your partner should be the one that you talk to. But I'm a huge believer in, like Cindy, your partner you can talk to them a little bit, but if your spouse or if your partner is in a space where it's kind of like beyond your pay grade, advise them to talk to a professional. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that's just a culture of relationships now. Everybody want to be the all-in-one in one person. And I'm like, your partner might be broken too.
And there's fatigue. You can love and love, but they might wear you out.
Right. That's heavy. That is heavy. So what's the line on that? How do you establish that boundary, as Cindy was talking about? How do you establish that boundary, Dr. Matthews?
So a part of that is recognizing what you can and can't handle, right? This is more than just, I had a rough childhood, but when you really need to deep dive into that, again, you need to talk to someone that is impartial, because again, your partner is going to be biased because they love you in healthy relationships, right? They love you, they care for you, they're going to always be on your team. But as a clinician, it's our job to be that neutral third party, that's that reflective mirror that shows you and what that looks like, and recognizing that you just can't, trauma dump on your partner and expect them to the next morning and have an amazing day at work, or want to plan a date night, or, is able to tend to the kids. That's too much, especially if they're not trained. A person can love you, with healthy boundaries and conditions. And it's not our partner's responsibility to heal us and to make us whole and to fix us.
100%.
Wait a minute, hold on. See, I knew when Dr. Bridget said she was going to bring a guest on, I knew it was going to be a problem already. You said that it's not our partner's responsibility to fix us. I just wanted to say it because I believe that's the case too. But for some of us, we may not have gotten that message. And I know we got to take a break. I want y'all to think about this. These are two doctors that are saying, don't expect your partner to fix you. Nope. That goes against the grain of what we see in the culture of building relationships, intimate relationships, Dr. Matthews. I'm sorry. It kind of goes in there. You got 30 seconds to add a little something to that, because I know some people are probably like, really?
That's
especially the next generation.
Yeah, that's why relationships often fail. Because of the pressure of thinking, I'm going to come in here, and no, we're all broken people, okay? But to think I'm going to enter into this relationship so that you can fix me, so that because of you, now I feel more whole, but you haven't done the work, it will cause a stressing relationship that will cause more and more issues. So
my God, my goodness. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, more conversation about reclaiming your wellness. We got our medical expert, Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams. We got Dr. Kristen Matthews from Preventative Measures. And of course, we got you. Post your comments on the chat as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube channel. So you can jump in the chat there. We're also streaming on Roland Martin's Facebook page. I would love to hear what you got to say from the Facebook crew. And if you're on the X platform, make sure you post your comments as well. Stay with us. We continue the conversation about Black mental health and so much more here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. It is Monday, so we are all the way in for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment with Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams, MD, who's joining us today. And she brought along a very special guest, Dr. Kristen Matthews, who serves as the Director for Preventative Measures, as we talk about Black mental health and wellness, and been having a fantastic conversation. But I love the point that we left off at, sisters, around this idea that your person, quote unquote, the person you're in an intimate relationship with, should not carry the burden or the responsibility of fixing you. That if you do have a real problem, as Cindy D checked in and said her husband was trying to talk to her and she just felt like it was above her pay grade. She also posted that her husband was a functional alcoholic. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about very serious issues, it's not enough to just say, I'm gonna just talk to my spouse, my partner, or to my homeboy or my girlfriend. No, you need professional help, right? Like if it's this thing, and I think that there's, Dr. Bridget, I want to get your take on this first, then Dr. Matthews. I think there's a little bit of resistance and pushback on this because it feels comfortable. Whereas if you sat down with a professional and you really had to open up, that can open up the floodgates, right? Am I thinking wrong, or is that right or wrong in my assessment of that, Doc?
I think it's one thing to have open communication and transparency with your partner, which is the goal, right?
Right.
And to be able to be your true self and being open in that space. It's another thing to do the work with your partner. Now you have employed, because it's not the same talking about what's going on with your day, how you feel about it, what they said, that I'm having issues with this boss, my mom's gotten on my nerves, I'm having all these issues that you're needing to work out. That's what friends and family help you with. But when it has started to cause roadblocks in your life, when you cannot get over the past and your past is now affecting your future, friends and your they got their own, they are not equipped. And I'm so excited about what Dr. Matthews is doing here, because if we can get more high quality therapists and counselors, so many things that happen in our community is because we're working from a dysfunctional place.
Yeah.
The reason why I do the healthy relationships only is because so many people don't even know what healthy looks like in a relationship. So I'm excited about what she's doing. And, Dr. Matthews, the idea of bringing in all, these young people into this space, what are some of what holds people back? They're going to college, they see this hopefully as an opportunity. What holds them back? Or what more can we do to provide this as a way to help our community?
A part of that is the fear. We were talking about that in the previous segment, fear of the unknown. And sometimes that fear is not when you look at the younger generation, sometimes it's not their own fear. Sometimes it's the projected fear of their parents. And the elders in their lives, we don't do that, or what stays in this household stays in this household. So they're going out guarded, but not sure of what they're supposed to be protecting. I think that with the younger generation, we are seeing some kids kind of just normalizing it and asking for help and not seeing the negative cloud that's over one's heads when they are saying, okay, yeah, I need to see a therapist for this, or I want to talk to the school counselor about that. And being able to, again, going back to supporting this next generation of clinicians, having someone that you do trust, right? So we're talking to our significant others because we trust them, because we feel safe with them. And recognizing that a clinician can create that trusting, safe space that will allow someone to disclose, to unpack, to just have their woosah. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in order to, again, learn how to cope in a more healthy way versus, Dr. Bridget, as you said before, like coming from this deficit or coming from like behind or lacking a resource to get us where we need to be in a healthy place.
I mean, I remember very clearly, I was a psychology major in college. I was obsessed with how people interacted in their brain and emotions. I remember in junior high, I was so excited about that. And I would read anything that I could pick up. And when I said that to my mother, she was like, if you don't become a real doctor, you can't come back home. Like, that's how serious it was. Dang. That the idea of psychology was such a negative, and I couldn't understand it at that time, but it is, we have to get beyond that if we want to be healthy as a community.
But when you think about and I'm talking in the extreme so we can just understand where some of these like deep-seated issues, like historically, social workers came into the home and disrupted the family, or counselors had to report these things and disrupted the family, and being able to move away from that and to say, we want to help, that we're trying to keep the family together. We're trying to keep everyone in the home. We're trying to teach you and to support you into doing things in a different way, so that we can be more whole, right? So kind of going back to one of the things you were talking about earlier about our health. Just because they're putting it on the market doesn't mean that we need to pick it up, right? So just because this was the way that we used to do things doesn't mean it's the way that we have to do them now. We can learn differently. We can communicate differently. We can ask for help to relate to each other differently, and by differently being in a more positive way.
Absolutely.
And Dr. Matt, okay.
No, I was just going to say that I keep hearing this term safe space, and I think people define it in different ways, right? And so, you know, to be able to have a safe space for a client, for someone that's looking for just more support, what does that mean to you?
For me, the way I define it and the way that I try to create it with my clients that I work with is you're safe enough just to be you, right? So when I was coming through school, it was more regimented, more formalized. This is the way that you have to sit, and you have to be open, and you want to invite these things. But those things have changed, right? I want to create a space where if they want to come in and say, you know, my boss pissed me off, exploit, that you can to do that, to say, you know, I am frustrated with this. I don't feel competent in that, and that I don't judge you with it. I'm not saying, oh, you know, that's such and such, and like just dragging out negative stereotypes, but just allowing you to be in whatever way, shape, or form you're coming. And that you can leave feeling like, okay, I can leave this here. And it's, again, this is the safe space. This is the confidential space. It's not going to get back to my spouse. It's not going to get back to my church members. It's not going to get back to my aunt. I can still be seen as whatever positive attributes that the rest of the people see you as, and not have your light dimmed or not be judged, because that you can dump it here, leave it here, and then go on with the rest of your week feeling a little bit lighter.
And I think Dr. Bridget and Dr. Matthews, when we're talking about safe space, a couple of things come to mind. That you can have a safe space with your partner, your spouse, but because, as you mentioned, Dr. Matthews, if they are in love with you, if this is the person that you are experiencing life with, and you tell them about certain things, then they're going to automatically be biased, and they're going to jump in and say, well, why you didn't, you know, they might become defensive. You know what I'm saying? Because I hear a lot of people, we always talking about safe spaces, being able to say it. But sometimes that's the hardest thing to establish with those who are closest to you, is the safe space, right? Versus going to not a stranger, but going to somebody that's not in your everyday world. And you can just put it out there and be able to kind of process it and think through it. And so it makes me wonder that, you know, how do we, as Dr. Bridget has always been talking to us about healthy relationships, how do we temper the expectations and make sure that any one of us that are partnered up, that we do create a safe space, but at the same time, giving our partner, the person that we experience a life with, time for themselves. You know what I'm saying? To be able to process certain things, because some people take it as a real offense. That if and I remember reading Bell Hooks' book, The Will to Change, and one of the things she said that is Black women sometimes are afraid to hear the vulnerabilities of Black men, because a Black woman has a view of a Black man being strong on all levels, but when a Black man has to share his vulnerabilities, she gets, whoa, what's going on here? Now there's a sign of weakness. There's a sign that you may not be that guy that you had positioned yourself to be, and that could be very jarring for a woman who has put her belief and faith in this man. Can you kind of speak to that dynamic, Dr. Matthews?
Yes, of course, I'm definitely biased. But when I hear you speak of that, I think of just those stereotypical expectations. Like, okay, I don't want to be vulnerable because I don't want to be looked at as, you know, less of a man or less of a leader. Just like on the flip, in terms of men wanting to just dump on their female partners because she's supposed to be strong and nurturing and she can take it and she can fix it and help me. But when do we have realistic expectations of what is my partner able to take? So when you're talking about your day, hey, honey, how was your day? How was work? That you're not just talking and not looking at a person's nonverbals. Are they cringing? Are they holding their breath? Are they like kind of like, what are their facial expressions doing? What are their bodies doing? When you're laying next to them that night, are they sleeping? Are they restless? Knowing like, okay, I may have said something, or, you know, they may have learned something that they can't carry, that it's too much for them. And having that space within your relationship to be like, okay, babe, I can't hear that. I want to be able to support you, but that's too much for me. And respecting a person, again, when they set that boundary with you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We got to take another quick pause. When we come back, I want to talk to Dr. Matthews and Dr. Bridget. I want to talk to us about this place that we do find ourselves in, where we're constantly using words from therapy, but we're weaponizing it. So let's talk a little bit about that. Folks, join us in the conversations. We're streaming now on Roland Martin's YouTube channel. Join us in the chat there and on Roland Martin's Facebook page. And we would love to hear what you got to say. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. This is an opportunity for us to be able to speak to our issues. Y'all better understand something real quick. We ain't going nowhere. It is a continual battle that we see all across this country. Revolution will not be televised. The revolution will be streamed.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
He makes sure that our stories are told.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture. We've been having a dynamic conversation as part of our Reclaim Your Wellness segment with Dr. Bridget, MD. Dr. Bridget is joining us. She brought her special guest along with her, Dr. Kristen Matthews, who serves as the Clinical Director of Preventive Measures, as we have in these conversations about Black mental health, safe spaces, and so much more. Now, here's the other thing that I've seen, Dr. Bridget and Dr. Matthews, that I want to kind of get your take on. I've read an article, and I think this is pretty accurate. They were talking about now that we are in a place in this country to talk about mental health. The language of therapy, as they call it, therapy speaks. This therapy speaks language is being used now, but some say that it's becoming more problematic because we use the terms like gaslighting. You used the term earlier today, Dr. Matthews, trauma dumping. Some people know the term trauma bonded. We're using these terms, right, that came from a therapy space, and now they become into mainstream culture, and they're being weaponized. And so some people you might hear two girlfriends, two homeboys talking about somebody, and be like, you know what, they got a narcissistic personality. Not knowing that narcissism is a deep, severe personality disorder. And it's not just, and the way it's kind of thrown around, it just seems like everybody's a damn narcissist. Everybody gaslights. Everybody does these things. So I want to kind of help to get some understanding on this. How should we contextualize, put therapy language in its proper context, so that way we can have some very real conversations about what's going on inside and not just throwing words around to act as if we know what the hell is going on?
One of the things that I think that is important is, one, don't use words you really don't know. I am big on, describing the behaviors. Are they not listening to you? Are they, trying to overtalk you? Are they, bullying you? Don't use these words that you really don't know what they mean, because they can, again, like you said, be weaponized to make you feel less than, or to emotionally manipulate you into doing something that you may not want to do. Even from a medical standpoint, sometimes I'll go to the doctor and be like, well, I looked up this, I looked up that. And my doctor's like, stay off WebMD, right? And let's talk through what you're experiencing and what that looks like. And then, we can take it from there. So I want to just flip that and use it in a mental health space. Like, you can always describe how you're feeling or what another person is doing to you, but let's use the therapeutic language in the therapeutic space where a therapist can explain it to you, define it for you. And then you're able to use it in a better context.
And yeah, because everybody can't be Dr. Bridget. She got the whole, she's certified, she licensed. Dr. Bridget, no, real talk. What's your take on that? Because I'm telling you, I hear it so much. It's a part of the American lexicon so much now that it's just being used everywhere. But then it still feels like we are like light years away from making some real gains and not just identifying the problem, but actually addressing the problem, solving the problem.
Yeah, it all comes down to education. You know, what we do get these kind of trending diagnoses, these trending words. You know, Dr. Matthews, you know, like it's the gaslighting, it's the narcissism now. I remember years ago, everybody was bipolar. None of those folks were bipolar, but it was like the new trending words that people are using. And sometimes not getting diagnosed for whatever it is that they had, because they had self-diagnosed and said, oh, you know, this is what they have. And so why go to the doctor? Because I already, you know, Dr. Phil or, you know, Instagram told me what I have, right? And so educate and let people know that there are opportunities here to get better. I think a lot of people say, oh, I have trauma from my childhood and that's just who I am now. No, you can get better. It does not have to be a part of your everyday experience and how you interact with people. You can get beyond it. You just need to do the work. So it's so important. Dr. Matthews, I really want to hone in on this gala, this opportunity for young people going into school, and how they can apply for these amazing scholarships and how people can give so that these scholarships exist.
So going to our website, preventivemeasuresinc.com, will answer all of your questions. It gives you a link to apply for scholarships. It tells you more about our scholarships. It tells you more about our inaugural amazing gala that happens next month, February 29th, here in Washington, D.C. And we are so excited to kickstart the movement with, you know, demystifying mental health, taking the stigma out of mental health, and recognizing that supporting this next generation of clinicians is one of the many ways in which we're doing it. So check out preventivemeasuresinc.com. It'll have all the answers there for you.
There it is. There it is. I got one more thing, and I want to get a couple of real quick comments from our crew. Karen Connor, my sister Karen, you said often couples move too fast in relationships. It is important to take it slow to get to know if someone is a good partner. If someone had a traumatic past, they may not be able to handle. That's a good point. That is a good point. Lydia Brown, you checked in and said being genuine amongst each other is good. People want to be happy, not toxic. There's another one of them words, right? Toxicity must go away. Jealousy and envy is so sad. It's toxic. And Real Brooklyn checked in and said, is it me or is the relationships even more complicated nowadays because of quote unquote hypersensitivity? There's just too many damn pronouns and woke stuff. Woo. Woo. And Janelle said, it's horrible that stereotypes have defined our level of connection to one another. The surface level niceties keep us from understanding what we really need from one another. So we have a lot of varying opinions about this, My final question to you, Dr. Matthews, as well as you, Dr. Bridget. A lot of times when Black folks go to therapy, it's our Blackness that is often discussed. We talk about the things that have affected us on the outside, whether it's generational trauma, whether it's the chattel slavery and coming out of that experience, a lot of those things. But one of the things that I know that I made sure when I went to see my therapist is that I don't need you to affirm my Blackness. I need you to help me with my internal stuff, not the stuff, not the system, not the man got his foot on my neck. I'm talking about the shortcomings of Farajii that has nothing to do with outside forces. It has everything to do with my personal experience. How do we make sure that we keep the relationship with our therapist on that level versus saying, oh, it's because of my Blackness? No, it's not because of your Blackness that you're emotionally unavailable. It's not necessarily because of your blackness that you might you have a gambling problem, or you have an alcohol problem, or you know what I'm saying. So how do we keep it there, Dr. Matthews?
Making sure that you have a competent clinician, right? Every clinician is not a good fit for everyone, and recognizing that if you're coming in and saying, these are my issues, these are the things that I want to work on, these are the things that I need help with, that they're able to meet your need in that. And what I always encourage anyone, if they're not able to meet that need, it doesn't mean that they're not, competent in doing what they're called to do. They're just not a good fit for you. So go and find another one and another one into a fit. Don't quit on therapy at all just because they couldn't meet your need, but find a good clinician that's a good fit for you for whatever you need.
There it is right there. Dr. Bridget, I can't thank you enough, my sister.
Absolutely.
For bringing Dr. Matthews to the platform, to the conversation. Just tell us what we need to do to make sure we stay in tune with Dr. Matthews and with you, because y'all doing some great work, Dr.
Absolutely. So I'll definitely have her information on my page later today. I would love to have Dr. Matthews back as they go through this journey and start preparing for the Scala and get these new college students prepared to help us, right? By giving to this organization preventive measures, you might be helping yourself. That might be your new therapist, right? Or your kids or your spouse. And so definitely support what they're doing here. I'm so excited about it. And, the more Black and brown people that we have in the space, the healthier we are as a community. So thank you, Dr. Matthews, for coming on. We'll have to have you back.
Yes. I enjoyed it. This is a wonderful conversation. Keep doing the work. I get excited every time that I hear of us having these conversations in these spaces. Again, the idea of just normalizing it and asking for help and getting and supporting the next generation of clinicians that are going to provide quality help for us when we ask for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Matthews, and I truly, truly appreciate you. Thank you, Dr. Bridget, and make sure y'all follow Dr. Bridget on all social media platforms at Dr. Bridget MD. You can follow her on Instagram and everywhere else. She's always dropping some jewels, always sharing some dope conversations, always highlighting great people like Dr. Kristen Matthews and so many others in her network. She's always been good for the culture. Thank you, sisters. Truly appreciate y'all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. Make sure y'all do your due diligence and continue to support us here on Black Star Network. If you enjoyed that conversation, and it seems like many of you did, you got something from it, then your support means the world to us. Make sure you go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free on all your devices. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And drop something in the bucket. Speaking of dropping something in the bucket, big shout out to Leona R. Brown for making a donation to be a part of the Bring the Funk fan club. There we go. Thank you, Leona. And we truly appreciate you. So many people last week, we had so many people that were, as soon as they checked into the show, they heard a few minutes of the conversation, they put something in the bucket for us. So I cannot thank y'all enough. So Leona, thank you. And my brother Ronald Rogers checked in earlier today and put something in the bucket for us as well. So thank you for your support. Folks, stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. is Roland Martin Unfiltered. Follow me on all social media platforms, but I need some new followers some more followers so we can continue to have these conversations. My Instagram at The Real Farajii. You can follow me there, as well as on Twitter at Farajii. On Facebook, I'm Farajii Muhammad, and I would love to connect with you. So stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great evening. Peace.